Hey, 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 all you Collabcast listeners. This is Captain Dave Jackson coming to you from an absolutely sunny Hendersonville, Tennessee. I used to always say Gilbert, but today it's just like Gilbert. It's pure sunshine, 82 degrees. It's almost heaven. But heaven is talking to this guy right here, my next guest, Grant Botma from my hometown for 13 years in Arizona, Gilbert. Good friend of mine, and we'll talk all about what we've done in the past together and some of the things that he's doing. Grant, welcome to Collabcast.
Dave, thanks for the invite, man. I'm excited to be here. Yep, just like Hendersonville, we got some sunny Gilbert, Arizona action today. A little bit hotter though. Has not yet cooled down. That those days are coming though, where like everybody's getting tired of the hot summer in Arizona.
So,
You know that feeling. So
when you say hot, you mean 100 plus still?
Oh yeah. Well, today's high is 96-ish. So
No, that's
still,
not bad at
it's
all.
starting to get cooler.
Yep. I remember when September's would be 100 every day, and then October, November, it drops like a rock.
Yep.
And then you can have freezing at night on Christmas. It's crazy.
Yep.
There's almost no fall in Arizona, but there's a ton of spring, and winters are not bad either. So anyway,
beautiful.
that's in the desert. It is beautiful. So welcome to Collabcast. I got my juice here. There's just ice water. Just all you folks, just calm down. I have a cold, so I gotta, wet my voice here.
It's like Jordan's flu game. You're making it happen anyways.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Jordan's flu game. Anybody remember that? My favorite player of almost all time. Guess what? I ran into at the airport a few days ago. Come down. I'm sitting next to an old guy in a wheelchair, is waiting for at the gate, and he's got a Roberto Clemente jersey on, a Pittsburgh cap. I'm like,
Wow.
dude, my favorite baseball player. Just the work ethic. I love that guy, but he's old school, way back. Most people don't remember 70s, a little bit 80s, 60s, 70s. So 21, Roberto Clemente, he had the jersey. So we got to talking, and he's from Pittsburgh, told me all about the Roberto Museum, and the dude is so into it. And then you bring up Michael Jordan, like my two favorite athletes of all time, just come up here in the last few days. So
Now, what
yeah.
people don't think about with Roberto Clemente, not only was he a great hitter, but he had an unbelievable arm. His
You
defense
could
was
not
like
go from
next
first
level.
to third on him.
No
He was
way.
a right fielder. You could not go first to third. He would put you out in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
He could just, on a BB, man, that guy could put it right where it needed to be. It is unbelievable. He was probably a better defensive player than he was a hitter, and he was a damn good hitter. So yeah, if you know your history at all about baseball players, so I'm kind of old school that way. So thanks for bringing him up, Jordan too. The flu game, he had the flu so bad he's fever and goes out and scores 52. Go figure. Just a man on a mission. So I'm glad to have you on, brother. This is a great time. Here we are in the middle of a hard market in the insurance market. Mortgage is seeing its challenges, and you've got all these businesses. But before we get into the business stuff, the non-sexy stuff, I want to talk about you personally. I want to let our listeners know about you personally. So I happen to know, because I've known you for quite some time. I happen to know a little bit about your past and your background. And I've probably read your bio several times too. So, but you actually went to college in Arizona, and you're a native Arizonan. And there aren't too many of you folks out there, because Phoenix went from like 1 million people, good sized town, to like 6 million. And those 5 million people are all from somewhere else. But you're from right there, and you grew up in the Phoenix area. Am I correct?
Yep, that's right. I actually grew up on a farm, a dairy farm, which was on the far west valley of the metropolitan Phoenix area. And now in my adulthood, I'm living on the East Valley in obviously the suburbs. So two very different lives. And even between that, when I was a kid, in like junior high-ish time, I was living in Central Phoenix. And so I've kind of lived all over the place in the valley, experienced the West Valley, Central, and East Valley, which all three are very different.
They are different. One city, or suburbs, but all different vibes. Yeah.
Yep.
So now you're in Gilbert. Gilbert's got a really cool vibe. It's got a revitalized downtown, which is not all that big, but it's super cool. It's like 4 blocks long. on Gilbert Road. And there's all kinds of new businesses that popped up there, and it's like the hub, and it's a cool place to go with cool restaurants and things to do.
I think like the best way to describe downtown Gilbert is charming. Is that a really great way to do?
Yeah, I would call it charming for sure. Yeah, and it's so you got a mixture of new and old. I just heard what's his name's coffee shop. He finally gave in next door. Bergie's. So Bergie's coffee shop finally gave in. This is a guy, he's been there forever. And I used to have networking meetings in his courtyard or inside too when it's cold at his coffee shop. And it's this little bitty thing with an outdoor patio and plants and trees and stuff. And then you got all these brand new things right next door to him, 3-4 stories. And he's got this little bitty coffee shop. He finally gave in. He's given up the property and going to let Progress take over. So good for him. So we'll see what that ends up being. But there's a lot of cool things in Gilbert. Gilbert's mainly a bedroom community, not huge employers, but it's one of those suburbs that's relatively new. I'd say 25 years is about as old as Gilbert. If you saw any of the history, I lived in a neighborhood that was all farmland, tons of dairy farms, and they even grew cotton in the fields, which is crazy. You don't think about Arizona as a cotton place, but they did that too. And so now you're in Gilbert. You've been there for quite some time, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So max population in Gilbert is probably about 350,000. It's about that right now. There's not a ton of more room for growth, but it's an absolutely desirable community to want to live in, raise a family, and be. And for those of you guys who are listening, it's a great place to visit too. As Dave and I talked about, really cool downtown. You can get an Airbnb near there, or stay at a hotel. Visit some of the charm that is there. Awesome eats. People don't think that about Arizona, but it really is a great foodie state. A ton of great golf. And if you came out to Gilbert, let me know. Would love to have a round of golf with you, talk business, talk personal life, because Gilbert's a great place to visit.
So in case you guys who are listening didn't know, Grant's new to the golf world. He picked it up not too many years ago. COVID golfer, right. So you could only do a few things and you could go out and golf during COVID. And if you don't know, Grant's a tall dude. So I'm sure, I'm not going to ask, but I'm sure he had to go out and get some custom fitted clubs, because when you're 6'6", is it 6'5", 6'6"?
Yeah, 6'5".
Yeah. When you're 6'5", the standard off the rack clubs don't do it. And you still swing left-handed, correct?
Yeah, I'm a right-handed, I'm ambidextrous, but I do golf left-handed, but I do a lot of other things right-handed. Yeah.
So
it's been a fun game. I didn't know that. Here's the thing, like, I never got into it, even though everyone in the industry was into it. I just like, this is dumb, this is stupid. I only really did it when I had to for like a charity event. But what I never gave it credit for was how great of a game it is for community. I've had the opportunity to not just golf with friends, but even people in this industry, insurance specific. I mean, Steve Hawley comes out to Arizona every year. We make sure we get a round or two in together. I've golfed with other friends that are in the industry, and it's just a really, really great game to have conversations and community around. And it's fun in that way. And plus, for me personally speaking, I needed to have another part in my life where I could have a goal and have something to go towards, where no one's life was at stake. Like, I'm leading businesses, I'm leading my family, I'm leading in areas at my church. I'm doing all of these important leadership roles, but having an avocational goal, something that I could put energy and effort towards. And if I failed, it didn't matter. Was good, and it was a big deal. And it's nice to be able to do it outdoors in beautiful weather here in Arizona, and then also travel to other states and locations and see the beauty, but also do the game in that beautiful location with great people and community. So it's been fun. I strongly recommend it for anybody. That's
cool. What a great perspective. So do you actually track your handicap at this point?
I do. Yep.
Stage? Mm-hmm. Where is it sitting right now?
Let me look it up in the app. I use the
Grint. Got an app, of course.
Yep. So if you're on the Grint, you can friend me. Okay, so my handicap right now is 9.2.
Wow.
There. When I started out, obviously, I was like almost 30, and there was a time where I was down into the 4s, but just haven't been playing as much lately. So I'm a single digit handicapper, but just barely.
Did you take private lessons?
I did, yeah. And not only did I take private lessons, but I bought a range pass where I could go to a range at a course near my home. And my uncle challenged me. He's like, well, if you want to get good at golf, you got to hit 10,000 balls. And I'm like, okay. And I'm going to try to do that within a year. And sure enough, not only did I do that, I did a lot more. But just repetition like anything. And then you start getting familiar with it. So, yeah, I really enjoy the game.
That's cool. Well, while we're on the topic of golf, since you've only played for, 3 years or so, what's the nicest course you played thus far?
My favorite course is the Coeur d'Alene Resort course.
Is that the one with the island green?
Yes. And not only does that course have the island green where you literally have to take a boat to go to the green,
right.
But man, like every other hole is this beautiful, picturesque thing. You can take a picture from basically every tee box and every green and see something extremely unique. I mean, they've got water, they've got the trees, they've got different elevations, they got really unique looking holes. There's some good challenges that are a part of the course, but it's gettable for almost anybody. It's very much a resort style course where you can go and play the course and never had played golf before in your entire life, but still have a blast doing it. Or be a scratch golfer, go to the course, play it, and be challenged enough and enjoy the views enough that you'd want to come back again. So I love that course. It's my favorite course I've ever played. But in Arizona, my favorite course is not in the valley, Dave. It's actually up north in Williams.
I can believe it.
It's called Elephant Rocks. And in the summertime, I go up to Williams to play that course with friends. And the weather's great. It's like 75 and sunny. There's always these afternoon light showers that come in up north in the Williams area. The course has a lot of fun challenges. You're playing in the pines, which is different than the desert golf that I'm used to when I'm here in the Valley of Phoenix. But I love that course as well. Super inexpensive public course to go play. So those are my two favorites.
Well, the one in Idaho is like world famous. The Island Green, everybody knows. You've seen pictures of, and you actually literally take a boat to the green from the tee. There's no way to walk to it, so unless you can walk on water. But that's a cool, very cool course. I didn't know the rest of it, but that's like been on my bucket list forever. I don't know if I'll ever play it, but for playing such a short period of time, you're very fortunate to be able to play a course like that.
Oh man, it was great. It was like a charity fundraising event where somebody was paying for a foursome to fly in his private plane to go to the resort, stay at the resort, play golf there for several days. So we bid on it and won on it. But man, I'm never going to fly a small private plane ever again. I was sicker than a dog, and it was awful. But I absolutely loved the golf. Coeur d'Alene has a really cool downtown that's kind of like Gilbert, honestly. Mm-hmm. Gilbert's downtown, which is great. But then I was loathing the trip back, and flying in that small plane again was just bad. I'm getting in my old age, Dave. I'm starting to enjoy flying less and less and less. I'm struggling with it.
Yep, I hear you. Couple funny stories about that. Well, as far as private jets go, inside, very luxurious, comfortable, no question. It's nice. But boy, Mother Nature can take those things for a ride.
Dude, those things, while you're riding in them, you can feel a dog fart. I mean, it's terrible. It's bad.
It's bad. And the funny thing, the other day, like just within the last 3 days, somebody said in our IAOA group, asked the question, hey, I know it's not insurance related, but how many of you fly on, was it Frontier or Spirit or Allegiant? It was I think it was Frontier, and everybody was commenting about the no frills and you pay for this and you pay for that. And at least they're a jet, so it's a smoother ride. But man, there's just got to be a good medium somewhere where you can fly in comfort, luxury, and not have to barf it when you get done, because it's such a rough ride. But that's
my favorite is JSX. JSX,
I've heard of them.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're that medium. The problem is
Yep.
they don't fly a lot of locations and mostly West Coast, but
Yeah.
they're great. Whenever I go to Vegas, if I'm not driving, I'm flying that, and it's wonderful.
Yep. And they're nonstop, and you can book an appointment online, and boom, you're there, and you'll drive right up to the plane. That's a cool ride, but it's a little pricey. But if you got the
Yeah.
coin, you can make it work. So on your bio, it says you went to Arizona Christian University, which I knew, of course, but and you played basketball there. But is that still a small school like it was back when you were doing it, or is it
Actually,
grown?
yeah, when I went there, it wasn't called Arizona Christian University. It was called Southwestern Bible College.
Oh,
And there was
okay.
maybe like 300 to 500 students that would go there, depending on the year. And the only majors, well, what they were known for was equipping pastors and teachers and missionaries. So that's the types of folks that would go to the school. They had a
But they
business
had
department.
sports.
They did have sports. Yep.
Wow.
And the sports that we played, like people hear that I played college basketball, but I wasn't scholarshiped. It was just a bunch of pastors out there playing basketball, and it wasn't anything like exceptional.
But they
Now, as
belonged
far
to a
as
conference and played competitively, right?
yes, we did play competitively. We played against other Bible colleges throughout the country. We played in the National Christian College Athletic Association. But we also did play some of the bigger schools from time to time. They would always like pay us to come play them at their home court,
Like
just to
GCU?
yeah, like NAU, Alaska Anchorage, some of the other bigger schools, and we would just get our butts kicked. But it was a free trip, and it was fun, and it was a cool experience, and it helped us get better, so that when we played the smaller schools that were in our conference and division, we were ready for it. So. Yeah, it was a small school back then, but it's different now. They've rebranded to Arizona Christian University. They're not a Bible college anymore. They're more of a liberal arts Christian university. And there's several thousand people that go to that college now. They've even changed campuses because they've outgrown the campus that they were at when I was there. Added a ton more sports, a lot more majors. Business administration is now one of their bigger majors. So yeah, it's a different place, different school, but still my alma mater.
Okay, so I want to talk business now. You have been the owner of Stewardship since 2009, 14 years. Did you start with mortgage?
I did start with mortgage, and I believe the business actually started technically in 2007. 2007, yeah.
Okay.
So... Yep, started with mortgage because that was the industry I was already in prior to starting Stewardship. But the goal and the plan was always to add some of the other lines of business that we have today.
Okay. That's one of the questions I was going to get to. So stop answering my questions before I ask them. No, but when you were in college, what'd you major in, first of all?
I actually double majored. I went in thinking I wanted to be a youth pastor, so I started with Christian ministries. But then after about a year of being in that world, I decided I was passionate about business and finances and something I was really good at. And I just added business administration to the Christian ministries major. So I did two in one there.
So with your BA in business, were you even thinking mortgage then at the time in college?
Yeah, so kind of a funny story. I was, before I got into college, I was working in the credit card industry, so I'd already had a little bit of like business or finance background.
Part I did not know. Okay.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, the Discover card had a job fair, and I didn't want to go to class, so I signed up for the job fair. And I just went because it was a way to get out of class. And in the job fair, they had like this mock interview of a credit card collection. Right. And I guess they liked what I did good enough that by the time I got home, the recruiter from the job fair had left a message for my dad asking if I could come and work for them because I wasn't 16 yet. I was still 15 at the time. So as 15 years old, I started getting in the finance world working at Discover Card as a credit card collector. And they did a good job with their training, teaching about finance and all that stuff. But like one of the things that I just didn't jive with was the idea of threatening people to collect money. Didn't make sense to me. Plus, as a 15-year-old kid whose voice hasn't even really changed yet, so like it wasn't gonna work. I didn't really care if I got fired. I was just a kid. I mean, I was literally riding my bike to this big gigantic business that's a high rise. And so what I did, I would just showed up to work and would listen to people. I figured if they were past due on a credit card, they were probably past due on a lot of stuff. So I never asked for money in the phone calls. When I called people, I would just say, hey, what's going on? Hey, you know you're late on the Discover Card. What's going on? And I'd take notes about what was going on in their system or in our system, so that when I called them back, I'd be able to say, hey, did you end up finding a job again? How's the job search going? Hey, how's your leg that you got injured? Or hey, how's your back doing? Or hey, how's grandma doing after the funeral or the family and whatnot? And as a result, I would build relationships with these folks. And then when I was in school, because I only worked part-time, my inbound phone line was ringing off the hook and my manager had to keep answering it. And it was people calling. When they got money, they decided to call and pay me rather than the other debtors that they had or creditors that they had. So I ended up being fairly successful in the credit card industry as a result of that, winning different awards and whatnot. And it wasn't like I did anything on purpose or super innovative or crazy. It's just relationships, man. I was just listening to folks.
That's so funny.
When I started having some of that success, then I was able to buy a car and stuff was happening weird in my family. So I ended up moving out on my own before I graduated high school and was living in an apartment. And we're taking our final trip as a youth group now. When I'm 18-ish years old, all the seniors are going to California from Arizona to go to the beach together. And you know how that goes. It's a 15-passenger van full of a bunch of kids with the youth pastor and the leader. So everybody's kind of have to take a turn sitting on the hump in the front because everybody's got their clothes and their boogie boards and their surfboards and whatnot.
And you just hope you don't crash.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sitting on the hump in the front, and the youth leader, the volunteer youth leader, he's just going to grill you and make fun of you, and it's going to be funny. And he's asking me, he's like, Grant, you live on your own, you got a car, how are you making that happen? I'm like, oh, I work as a credit card collector. He's like, oh, you do, huh? So like he pretended that I owed him money, and he did these fake phone calls, and it was hilarious. Like he had the van rolling. And it was great. But eventually, after a series of many calls, he paid me in this fake call. And little did I know that he owned a mortgage company, and there's the connection. Yep.
And darn.
He recruited me to come work for him, and he taught me the mortgage industry, and so that's where I was working in the mortgage industry. And eventually, when I was in college, I was seeing and experiencing just a lot of really weird stuff in the mortgage world, man. Like it was a dirty industry. The types of loans that people were selling to folks were not genuinely what was best for the consumer. I mean, I was watching folks refinance, and then like a year later, they'd have to come back in and refinance because they were getting a divorce. I'm not saying the loans that were being written were the reason for those divorces, but I'm here to tell you that the way that people's personal finances were hooked up because of these bad mortgages definitely wasn't helping relationships. Right. And at that time, I was also, reading about the Bible in college, and I was seeing how much the Bible talked about money. And I'm like, man, why is this going on? What's going on here? And I just like dove in and learned and just decided, you know what, I'm going to create a place where people are going to get their finances taken care of for what's best for them, whether they know it or not. And that's kind of where I wrote the business plan for what Stewardship is now today, a mortgage company, an insurance agency, financial planning, investment advisory, and real estate. And now people can come and get their finances handled in a way that's genuinely best for them. And that's how we got to where we're at.
So you wrote the business plan for these, we'll say, 4 segments of Stewardship. Did they come at about the times that you anticipated?
No, they didn't. Yeah. I thought the financial planning and investment management side would come right after the mortgage side because that's the part that I was most passionate about. And my uncle was in the industry. He had a branch of Smith Barney, and was mentoring me at the time. And what I was learning was I needed a lot more experience in finance before I was going to start managing people's money. And I decided not to start that industry, be in that industry as soon as I maybe initially thought. And then the insurance side came up sooner because my brother, he was in a car accident, and the insurance agent didn't necessarily provide for him the proper coverage. He actually had the same coverage he had when he was a high schooler, without any assets. And as a result, he did not have the right type of insurance that covered him. And it made an impact on him and his family financially. And I'm never letting that happen to anybody I know again. So that was the motivation for me to start the insurance P&C side right away. So it was like mortgage, and then literally within a few months, I started the insurance side.
Gotcha. I was looking at your bio, and it said mortgage loan originator in 2009, I'm going to guess. And insurance actually your insurance license came before that. So I thought that was interesting because I thought you had started mortgage prior to insurance.
Yeah, I was in mortgage before insurance for sure. And I did start the mortgage entity prior to insurance. But the thing you have to also remember is that mortgage people were not required to be licensed until later on. Right. So those rules and laws changed. So I was in the mortgage industry before that, but my specific mortgage license didn't come until later because they didn't have a license for mortgage folks until later.
Boy, you are old. Okay. I'm the same way. When I got into insurance in the late 70s, you did have to take an exam, but you took it on paper with a number 2 pencil, and they scored it for you manually. So yeah, that's how old I am. So my question then is, you added real estate last. Mm-hmm. Was there hesitancy on your part in bringing real estate in, or why? Tell us about the timing of when you added it. I'm very curious about that because it came many years later.
Yeah, the fundamental thing that is true about every business is that you're serving somebody somewhere. Right. And you're finding a need and you're filling it. And what happened specifically in Arizona is that the need for a new way of doing real estate kept coming up over and over and over again in the recent years. And as a result, I thought, okay, there's a need to serve people. Let's find that need there. Let's go ahead, jump in and start and fill it. And really that need came down to the speed with which home values were increasing. Was dramatically increasing the compensation to real estate agents, because most real estate agents have their compensation tied to the percentage of the home that's being bought or sold. Right. And I didn't necessarily agree with that. Most of the time, real estate agents aren't doing any more work to earn that extra commission. Real estate agents aren't necessarily the reason why those home values were going up. And when those home values were increasing and that real estate agent compensation was increasing, it was decreasing the amount of total net profit that a seller would get when they sold their home, and or the total amount of the cost of the home for the buyer when the buyer would purchase. So I saw a need there and I wanted to jump in and fix it. I also was tracking heavily a whole bunch of these lawsuits that are out there about real estate agent compensation, and saw that, man, the writing's on the wall. There's going to be some reform and some change coming to some real estate agent compensation. And I wanted to jump in and be a person that was kind of leading that change. So that's the reason why the real estate agency came in later.
Gotcha. So I have 2 questions that I happen to know a little bit about what you've done in the past. One of them was many years ago, you talked about building software where you could approve a mortgage loan in 3 minutes or less. How'd that project end up going?
Yeah, so it started as that was the goal, and then it turned into like this internal system that helped us move transactions forward quicker. And the heart behind that is, if I am going to have, I have a responsibility to people who come and use Stewardship as a financial product or service. I have to be efficient. Like I have to. The more efficient I am in our business dealings, the lower I am able to charge consumers, right?
Makes sense. Makes total sense.
If I'm not efficient, I have a lot more costs and time involved in anything and everything we do. And as a result, the cost of the consumer is higher. So the more efficient I am, the less I'm able to charge consumers. And the mortgage company is the same way. We have a flat fee approach, and we are very inexpensive, have some of the best interest rates possible in Arizona. And the reason why we were able to do that is through efficiency. And one of them was the system that I created. It didn't end up getting the goal of being able to buy and get a loan within minutes, but it did create for us a way of processing transactions a whole lot quicker. So I ended up having this software internally that was doing really well, and the end result was I sold that software to another company that has now then taken it to the next level. So, but it's still an internal system and process that we use to this day.
That's a cool story. Good for you. And the way I know you, it's no surprise that efficiency is your passion. Like over the top. It's just like I'm looking every day for ways to be even more efficient than I already am. Yep. That's just your makeup. Whether it be at golf or mortgage lending, whatever it might be, I need to be efficient, and that's who you are, and that's cool. That because your passion to be that way has an impact on everybody in your life, whether it's personal or business, it doesn't matter. It impacts those other people. So that's a cool thing. I just want you to know that.
Oh, thanks. I'll be honest. There's a thorn and a downside to it. I am a very critical thinker. I look in the mirror often of ways of trying to improve, which is super helpful in that endeavor of constantly improving. But the downside of being a critical thinker too is sometimes like I open my mouth or I jump in areas to try to improve or critically think through things that I shouldn't, and can sometimes just come across like the biggest arrogant jerk in the world. So I need people in my life, friends like you, Dave, and that are willing to pull my ear and say, hey, dude, this is not the time, just calm down with it. So I have to learn to turn it on and turn it off. So it's a big benefit, but it's also something that I'm self-aware of and know that, okay, don't do the critical thinking thing right now. This is not the time for improvement,
I was just going to say, at least you're aware of it and, can stop yourself at times to be able to say, oops, let's take a step back and rethink this. So yeah, it's a good thing, bad thing. You're right.
That's the truth though. Like I believe about everybody. I mean, if you're listening to this and you think to yourself, like, I'll have this thing that I'm really, really good at. What it probably means is that thing that makes you really good at what you're doing, that exact same like mindset or thought process or talent also means something pretty dangerous or bad. Like this, that's just the way things are. And the opposite is also true. If there's something that you really struggle with and you're frustrated with, or you're really having a hard time with it, one of the reasons why you struggle with that, what does that make possible? Well, there's probably something in that makeup of that struggle or frustration that also creates and makes something awesome on the other side too. And it's just a matter of just finding harmony between those things and leaning towards the good part of it and putting things in your life to prevent the bad part of it from happening less often.
Great segue. So you brought up the word harmony. And of course, that's included in one of your books that you've authored, which is Work-Life Harmony. And that's basically what you're talking about, what you wrote about in your book. Am I right?
Yeah, similar to that. I think we often talk about work-life balance, and that advice typically boils down to, hey, stop working so much. I don't believe in that. Again, I said earlier that businesses fundamentally exist to serve somebody somewhere, and I think that's a really good endeavor. I think it's wonderful to have your life put together and surrounded by serving others, by genuinely making their life better through the things that you do, including business. So rather than having like a balance beam of life on one end and work on the other end, and you constantly going back and forth and trying to stay in balance and eventually falling down, I just change that. I have a paradigm shift that says you have one life. And we're not trying to go back and forth and balance it, but we're just trying to bring them together as much as possible and as often as possible to find harmony in it. Change the mindset, change the goal. The goal isn't balance. You're not going to be able to stay balanced forever. The goal is harmony. And the way to do that is to bring all areas of your life closer together and unified more. And that prevents you from having to run back and forth between them.
So at what point did you realize that you might actually become a book author?
Oh man, I never wanted to. So Dave, when I was a kid, I struggled at reading. I did not read well at all.
That hard to believe.
And today, like I like reading now, but still to this day, I would much rather prefer to listen to a book than actually read it. But as you've experienced through this podcast here, I have no problem talking. And I can talk forever about anything. And so I made the online course a while ago, culture course of like talking about employees and building company culture and how to hire and fire and the whole deal. And somebody from a publisher took that course and they reached out to me and said, hey, you should be an author. I work for this publisher, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, cool, flattering, but no thanks. I don't even love to read, so how am I going to write books? And they're like, no, you don't understand. You've got like 12 books in this course. You really need to do it. And they continued to talk to me and essentially just made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I did it. And when I did it, it was a blast. I had never had so much fun professionally than writing that book, and just really, really enjoyed it. So shortly after the first one, we did another one. And it's just become a process that I've loved and really enjoy.
The problem isn't their paycheck. So that was the second one.
The first one, yep.
First one, and the work-life balance was the next one. So 2 so far. Are there plans for more?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. There's plans for more.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Can you let us in on a timeline?
I have not officially started the process of the next one. The next one's going to be a little bit different. It's going to probably deal with a lot more personal stuff. So I'm the son of 2 wonderful and amazing parents. But just like all of us, they're sinners who need Jesus and make plenty of mistakes. And I'm just going to talk about being a kid growing up in a family that maybe had some mistakes and had some issues, as all kids grow up in a household and with parents with mistakes and issues, specifically alcoholism. So I think the book is going to be about being a son of an alcoholic and what that looks like, and how I dealt with it and how I deal with it today as an adult.
Very cool. But no timeline yet.
No timeline yet. No. So Stewardship Realty was launched. So I put all the book stuff on pause for that. We've been open now officially a year. So we're recording this on the 15th of September, and September 1st was the official launch date of Stewardship Realty. So still a lot of focused energy and effort on that entity, working through probably one of the toughest real estate markets I've ever seen in my history in personal finance. So we're continuing to work on that and focus on that. And once that becomes a little bit more self-sustaining, then I'll be able to jump into different projects.
Okay, cool. So that was going to lead me into my next question. You're in 4 different areas that are all, I think for the most part right now, experiencing some of the toughest challenges they've seen. Insurance for sure, I know. But real estate and mortgage are not that far behind. So how's that? Some people say, this is the times that test us and make us stronger when we come out on the back end. So how is this market overall in the financial world? How's it impacted you and your clients?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was mentored for a while by Michael Hyatt, and he helped me look at things through this lens. What does this make possible? What does this make possible? So whenever there's a bad thing that's going down, sure, I'm going to deal with that, but eventually I'm going to look in the mirror and say, okay, what does this now make possible? Because of the situation that has played out, because of what is going on with the market, because of whatever the problem is, there is an opportunity for a reaction. There is an opportunity somewhere. So what is that? What does this make possible? And the good news is this isn't the first time I've dealt with a housing recession. So I started my mortgage company literally months before the other housing
crash
recession.
of the industry. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I had a mentor tell me during that time, like, Grant, there's an opportunity in every market. And I made, and this guy is a multi-billionaire. He's like, I made most of my money in these down markets, finding opportunities. And I was fortunate enough to get that advice and really look into that bad market before and find a new sector of doing business. And that's the thing that a lot of us, like in the insurance industry, we don't recognize all the time. You know, we have a license that allows us to do a lot of things, but we might just stick in one little area because that's what we're comfortable with. That's what we're familiar with. That's what's making money right now. But that license allows you to do a lot of things. So what I did in the mortgage industry in the first recession, you know, most people just do traditional purchases and refinances. Well, and those were going down because of all the changes that were happening. I jumped into the private money sector and started working with a lot of fix and flip investors, and that ended up just blowing up during that recession. And not only did that allow me to do well in that downtime, but the private money business, when that's doing really well, then the other business is going down. But then the opposite happens is when 2 or 3 years ago, when the refinance boom was happening and the traditional mortgages were doing really great, the private money side was a little bit lower. So although the mortgage industry is struggling right now, I'm actually doing really well because the private money business, again, has picked back up and it's doing awesome. So that has allowed us to thrive in this market. But I'm still asking the question. I'm not just sitting on my heels saying, oh, well, the change I made in the last recession is all I'm going to stick with. I'm still looking at this and it's a different down market. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what does this make possible? One, I can jump in and start a real estate agency when realtors are losing their licenses, giving them up every single day because it's such a hard market to buy and sell homes in. I can start a real estate agency when people are giving up their licenses because they're scared of any legal stuff that may come down as a result of some potential changes to real estate compensation. And as I'm doing that, everybody else is going one way, and I can be a contrarian and jump in and go the other way and start my business. I can also start a business and learn to make sure it maintains profitability in an extremely down market so that when things do turn around, man, is it going to feel great and even better, right? So that the next time another down market happens, whether it's 5 or 10 years from now, I can say, hey, no problem. I started the real estate agency right before the last down market, But also, what does it make possible? I look at the research. Home values went up like crazy because of the last boom and other things that were happening in our economy. And 43% of homeowners right now do not have a mortgage on their home. So, wow, what does that make possible? Well, we're jumping into becoming reverse mortgage experts. And that a part of business has just really started to take off for us. And again, it's a different type of loan or a different type of mortgage that we weren't doing a ton of before, but the license that I have allows for that. And that's kind of what we look at. We know that there's a market. There's down markets everywhere, and there's going to be opportunities in every single market. But the license that I have allows me to do lots of different types of businesses. So where's that opportunity, and where's that opportunity that I can fill with this license? So those are some of the things that we've done.
That's cool. It's amazing to me that 43%. So you do your research.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
not just saying you do. You really do. 43% is what to be the number. So that's cool that you've actually researched the markets that much, that in depth, to know this is the direction we need to go for profitability, for ease of doing business, for all the above, and make it work. And knowing that that's not going to be forever, it's just part of the trends. And there'll be another trend. And this is just the nature of our business. In any of the sectors that you work in, they're trending all the time, up or down, this way or this direction or that way. And just wait it out, work in the sector that is going to do well for now. And when that turns around, because it will at some point, like you said, 5 years, 10 years, we don't know how long, They tend to be about like that. You can't quite predict them, but you can see them coming usually ahead of time.
Yep.
And at least that's been my experience. And so you take advantage of it if and when you can, and make more profit on the back end when it turns.
And the cool part is too, it's like not only are you making more profit when it turns, Dave, but like it gives you more peace as a business owner. Again, you just said it. You know the downturns are coming. We don't know exactly when, but you know they're coming. And as a business owner, sometimes you get scared, like, oh, this is going to come, and what am I going to do? Am I going to be okay? But if you work really hard right now in these down markets and find a new way of doing business, another add-on service or product that thrives in this down market, there's a good chance that when things turn around, you'll have like what I have, where one's going up while the other's going down, you know? And that allows you to have confidence in no matter what the market is. Again, with the mortgage side, it's the traditional lending versus the private money lending. One's more popular when the market's down, right? And one's more popular when the market's hot. And you can do the exact same thing for insurance. A lot of people love to talk about there's riches in the niches. You have to niche to grow rich. And I think there is value in that, but I think you have to be an innovator first. I think you have to find needs and fill them first. And it's okay to have multiple niches. For me and my company, our niche is we love people well through finances. Our niche is to put other people first. And if we're going to do that, we have to put ourselves in their shoes in every market and find a way to serve them no matter the market.
Wow. You know, we could probably talk about this specifically in the insurance market because it's in a wild state of affairs right now. And I don't know if the general public knows it. They just know when they get their bill, what, and their premium statement, because it's changing, usually for the worse in their mind. So we could talk about that for hours and hours and hours, but we're going to have to cut it short. So maybe we'll have you back to talk about just mortgage one day or just insurance another day, and see if we can get your thoughts and views on some of the trends that you're seeing within your business. Because I've got a list of questions here that I could just rattle off for you, but we only have so much time in a day. So we're going to cut it short.
I'll share this little nugget for the insurance piece that will hopefully lead to the next podcast. But for this market right now, I think there's a gigantic, not only opportunity, but huge need for every single insurance agency to get crystal clear about who their ideal client is and start marketing to that ideal client. And that includes the types of clients that have lots of claims and the types of clients that freak out about increases or not, right? And fortunately, this is something that we've done an excellent job of, and we feel very confident about the book that we have even in this market. And that's only because of the work that we've done in years before, really hammering down who is our ideal client, how do they respond to increases, do they have financial margin in their life, are they the type of person that defaults to always filing claims. Like, these are things that you want to think through. These are things that you want to move towards so that eventually your insurance agency is not just taking on every piece of business, but almost like, oh, I get to work with your insurance agency like it's an exclusive thing. And that's the goal that I think every independent agent should work towards. And I'm happy to share the process that we've created in our own agency to move in that same direction.
Awesome. That sounds terrific. We'll have you back and talk about that here, I'm pretty sure, really soon. So, Grant, we appreciate you for coming on today and sharing your knowledge and a little bit about your background. And it really lays the groundwork, I think, if we hear about somebody's background and how they grew up and the things and trials and tribulations that have happened in their life, even early on sometimes, because it leads us to where we are today. And for specific reasons, usually, you know, you had a track, even as a 15-year-old, you kind of had an idea where you're headed. Not everybody does, but at least in your case, you've been able to share with us how it got started for you personally and where you're headed today. And next time we'll talk about insurance and where you're headed tomorrow. We'd like to know that too. So thanks for coming on. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next time on Collabcast by IAOA.
Thanks, Captain Dave.
Appreciate it. Captain Dave signing out. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Collabcast with IAOA with Captain Dave Jackson. Production and distribution by Podsquad.fm, Riverside.fm, and Spotify for podcasters. Special thanks to Little Dog Social Media, Terry Champion, and all our guests and listeners. If you're an independent insurance agency owner, please subscribe to our podcast weekly. You can also request to join our agency owner exclusive Facebook group, IAOA, or Insurance Agency Owners Alliance at IAOA.com. Captain Dave Jackson signs out from sunny Hendersonville, Tennessee.